him having feelings for her. So like when they did kiss, it was like, bro, why did my brother just put his mouth on me? That's what it gave. Hi guys, I am super excited about today's video. We are entering part 2 of a series I like to call Book versus Movie, Who Did It Better? Continuing on in our Hunger Games series, we're going to have Catching Fire, and of course I'm going to start with the book first. Now, I have to say that this video is going to be a little biased. It is, just a little bit, because out of all of the movies, I've probably seen Catching Fire the most. That's the one 9 times out of 10 when I'm either searching for it, or maybe if someone's like, oh, like let's watch the Hunger Games movies, I'm going to say Catching Fire. So before I keep going, reading the book was a really good balance for me because I do enjoy the movie so much. That being said, unfortunately, there are a few negatives that I have about the book, so let's get into it. First of all, and something that really stands out to me, is the fact that Katniss knew about the rebellion, like had genuine like knowledge of what was going on, and I think I prefer her oblivious to everything. It just made more sense with like her actions and what she was doing. And of course she didn't know everything, but like the interactions with the women in the woods who are running from, I think it was like District 8, and seeing the news reports in the mayor's office, it was just those little things. And even like her talking to Haymitch and Peeta about what was going on and saying like, are we joining the rebellion, like what's going on, and it didn't do it for me. It gave her too much knowledge, and we know Katniss is not necessarily a hothead, but Miss Ma'am does act sometimes before thinking, and it hasn't been in her favor all the time. So it definitely was more of like a, oh, okay, like, and what is she gonna do with this information? And it kind of seemed like, you know, as time was going on and they got into the games and everything, it didn't seem like she was so hyper focused on it anymore, which of course, I mean, if I got reaped a second time in a row for the quarter quell, I might forget about all that stuff too, honestly. And I also feel like, which this isn't a negative per se, it's just something that I've observed when reading it, the conversation between her and Snow is a lot more friendly in my opinion, or maybe I'm just tripping because it has been a little while since I've read it, but it just seemed like the tension that was in the room beforehand, or as it is in the movie, that's what I should have said, doesn't seem as apparent as it does like in the book. And something else I actually forgot to mention in the first video, but they kind of talk about it again in the book, is how, or maybe I did I have no recollection, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. If I didn't, then I'm saying it right now, but how Katniss's stylists were trying to like modify her and like do work on her. I just think that's baffling to me, and it's not really in the movies with like discussions about like wanting to do whatever to her, but it's like, why she's what, 17 now in these books? She's the teenager. That's the point that should be made. She's not an adult, not legally at least. So why are we trying to make modifications to her? And I'm glad Cinna was on her side, because there's no way I would have allowed this child to be getting enhancements. Like, what does she need enhancements for? And speaking about, of course, like Katniss's knowledge of the rebellion and everything that's going on, of course, Snow in the beginning kind of cues her in that like, this is kind of what's going on because you had the berries and now people are thinking that they can just willy-nilly do what they want, and that's not what it's about to be like. So obviously she, let me put this down. So obviously she's like, you know, I'm going to do what you want. I'm not going to make situations worse. I'm literally, whatever you tell me, like I got you, because obviously she knows what Snow is capable of, and he will come after her family, and it will seem like it was an accident. They won't even know that they had any hand on whatever could have happened to her family if she didn't follow Snow's instructions. So of course then it makes it even worse that he knew about the fact that her and Gale had kissed. So it's like, you really need to convince me, because you played this whole little scenario that you and Peter are supposed to be lovers, and you over here schnogging some other dude who's supposed to be your cousin. So let's remember our roles. Let's stay in our corners and get this show on a roll. And of course, you know, as we know, District 11 didn't go very well, but that is what it is. But honestly, I have to say that as time went on, and as I was saying, like, she kind of knew things about the rebellion. One thing that kind of stuck out to me was Plutarch when they were at Snow's mansion for the party or whatever, and I forget what it was. Was it his pocket watch or something like that? And it had like her Mockingjay symbol on it, which was like, so are you on my side? And that's the biggest thing, like, with Plutarch's character. You never really know whose side he's on. It doesn't really give like, yeah, I'm with the people, or I'm with Snow. Like, I feel like he played the fence so well, because it's like, obviously for him being the head game maker, master, whatever it is, he has to keep up with that role, because obviously, like, we all know what happened to Seneca Crane. Like, Buddy Boy didn't make it up in the first game, so he was like, I know better. But also, like, we don't see him very often, because of course this is Katniss's point of view. We don't get to flip-flop as we do like in the movie. So in her case, like, seeing that after like their conversation is like, and then she was also kind of like, did I actually see it? Because it happened so fast. Because honestly, flashing that symbol at a party full of capital folk is kind of crazy. Anybody could have seen it in the split second that Katniss seen it. Someone else could have saw it, and that would have been death for the both of them. And I find it kind of crazy, because even in the first book, I said this in the last video, of how long it takes to get to the actual games, because Peeta doesn't get hit by the force field, but he walked directly into it and with the little sword thing or whatever. But that doesn't happen until chapter 19. And honestly, I was kind of flipping through it, but like, that's a good chunk of the book. Come on. Yeah, this is the start of chapter 20. You see how much the difference, that's more than half of the book, which I find crazy. But of course, I mean, we had to see all of the before picture. So like, I understand, and as a writer, I know there's a lot of information and stuff you have to get to before the nitty-gritty. As a reader, because I try to separate the reader and the writer parts of me when I do read, it was just like, okay, but like, when does this happen? Since I know so much about the movies, I'm always just like, when am I gonna get to this part? Like, when does that happen in here? Even though I know how the story works chronologically. One scene that I was really looking forward to, which is of course the infamous scene where Peeta's getting interviewed by Caesar, and he's like, you know, we wouldn't have any quorums at all if it weren't for the baby. This is more so for the movie, but when I say, I eat that scene up every time, because it's like, who would have thought to have said that she was pregnant? Even Haymitch was like, because no way, because Katniss's face always kills me, but regardless, for the sake of the book, like, even just like seeing that, and it's like, of course, like the uproar of everybody, and the fact that they played that along like throughout the book. And it's like how like hysterical she was getting, or just like different things that like Katniss was going through, and they're like, oh, it's because of the baby. Throughout the rest of the movie, it's not even really touched on the fact that she's supposedly supposed to be pregnant. And of course, reading what happened to Cinna was not as hard as I thought it was gonna be. Seeing it's definitely a different kind of pain, because Cinna just, you see just how much he loves Katniss, and I believe deep down he knew that he wasn't going to make it out of it. And he also had to have known, like, changing her wedding dress into a dress that resembles a mockingjay, which is literally the symbol of the rebellion, because Katniss is the symbol of the rebellion. You was gonna get got, my brother. Like, there was no surviving after that. And so just the fact of like, she's getting ready to go into the Quarter Quell, and obviously he's there with her, and her having to see that before being brought up and everything, that's actually bonkers. And they of course did it on purpose, because it's like, we're gonna throw her off her game because we're trying to get her out of here. We're trying to get her killed like that. But they've got to know by this point that Katniss is not an easy person to kill. She's not, and she never will be, as we've seen. I do like the slight differences in how they tell the story. Like when that first horror hits, or the first hour, and they encounter the fog, it wasn't like the boils on their skin like in the movies. She kind of describes it as like acid, like a almost like chemical reaction, and how the skin was like starting to blister, and it was like shocking them throughout their body. Yeah, no, I don't think I would have been able to see that, because there's something about skin peeling. I'm okay with gore, but I have my levels of like, okay, that's enough. So I feel like I prefer the boils, because that was more of a thing of like, they could keep going. Getting kind of shocked in like ways like that when the fog was hitting them was going to slow the scene down. And also, to talk about slowing the scene down, I'm really glad now that Peeta did not have the mechanical leg, because Buddy was struggling running through the woods with that fake leg, and like it getting caught on different things. Yeah, no, you would have gotten left. Like, what am I supposed to do? Carry you? And eventually, like, he got so far off that, like, of course, Mags sacrificed herself and went into the fog so Finnick could help Katniss. But it's like, why? Where is your leg? The scene where Peeta gives her the pearl is so cute to me. I love it so much, because it's just like such a small thing in a moment where everything's so high tense. Like there's no moment of like calmness that anybody could really have in the game. So him giving her the pearl is just like, aw, you've gotta love Peeta, man. Of course, after the first movie, you know, Peeta and Katniss's relationship is strained, because he realizes that she doesn't share the same feelings as he does for her, and like the stuff that she was doing was just for show, which I kind of touched on, and I did give him a little rah-rah for that, because I was like, buddy boy, you've got to understand the situations that we're in. I would do just about anything to make sure we got out of here too. But regardless, instead of them having kind of like that conversation on the train, like in the movie, in the book, the train, while they were doing like the victory tour, it actually had to be stopped for repairs, and Katniss got off of the train because she was being annoyed by like Effie, and Effie was just going on about how they were being delayed and da-da-da-da, which honestly, I would kind of be the same way, because like, you're complaining about something that is so minuscule. We're literally on a train to celebrate the fact that we lived, and the rest of these people's kids and family have died. They have like that whole conversation that we see with him, you know, like apologizing to her about just everything, but then also like having like that cute little talk about like what their favorite colors were and everything like that. So that was kind of like a nice difference of scenery. Getting off the train, I feel like, was definitely a moment for Katniss specifically, of like just trying to breathe. I know I kind of touched on like the relationships between everybody in District 12 in the first book, but especially in the second book, it just shows like how much like they really depended on each other. And so, and the difference with this, like when Gale gets arrested, he goes to the head peacekeeper's house to try and sell the turkey, and instead finds Thread there. And of course, Thread is more of a dictator type of peacekeeper, so he is not having it, and that's how he ends up getting whipped. Whereas in the movie, Gale clotheslines Thread, and that's what got him punished, which it's a pretty good clothesline. So I mean, did he deserve it? I can't say, and I'm not going to say that, but you're bound to get some sort of punishment, and like Gale knew it. He knew it was coming. There was no escaping it. But I do kind of like that difference, because obviously we don't get the information about him trying to go and sell the turkey until afterwards, because there's really no time to get it, because we're in Katniss's point of view. She didn't know what was going on until after they had gotten Gale to her house. Now that I'm like fully remembering a lot more from the book and the movie, you see Snow and Plutarch having like that conversation after the whipping and everything, and Snow is like, we gotta get rid of their race, and Plutarch's like, their race, they're all white, what are you talking about? And Plutarch's like, what do you mean? And he shows like Haymitch and then Peeta running up. He's like, we need to get rid of the victors. And so it was really like a joint kind of decision that they made together, because Plutarch was like, yeah, like there's a way where you can get the victors back to the Hunger Games so you can get what you want without it being like a thing of like, oh, Snow, you specifically have killed all these people who are loved by the capital type. But in the book, it's more so of Plutarch saying that he wasn't expecting Snow to put Katniss back in the game, which kind of indicates that Snow came up with this by himself, which I feel like is a very big difference, because Plutarch doesn't really ever say whose side he's genuinely on. That's never something that you could ever really be sure of, even though, like, of course, yeah, he is technically on the side of the rebellion. His actions and his demeanor and the way he just kind of like does, he played us throughout Catching Fire until the end. He definitely played us, because it was like, you're a bad guy and I don't care what you're saying, you're not on our side. But I digress. Now, something that I might have found really fascinating is if Haymitch actually had have been in the games. But as I say that, I also know that that would not have gone very well. If it had been Haymitch and Katniss, they would have died. Not immediately, because of course Haymitch would have still been Haymitch and like figuring out whatever. But let's be so honest, Haymitch has been drinking himself to like an oblivion for years now. Since this man was a teenager, he has been a drunk. For obvious reasons, you know, of course, like he's very valid in how he chooses to cope with what he went through. So it definitely was a thing of like, yeah, Peeta would have needed to volunteer. Because also, Peeta doesn't know any of the victors. He can't tell Katniss anything about these victors. So it's like, what business do you have being my mentor? He was right to volunteer, because Buddy Boy needed to have been with Katniss, because at least then in that case, it was still fresh, like on their bodies, like both Katniss and Peeta. Whereas Haymitch, I don't know if he's picked up a weight or done anything physical in who knows how long. I also really love how Katniss and Peeta watch the other victors' games while they're on the train. I find that really, really cool, because I really wish we had seen that in the movies, but for time's sakes and everything, and now of course that Haymitch's book is out and we're getting the actual movie for that, they couldn't necessarily have footage of Haymitch's games when that didn't necessarily exist. So, but watching that whole thing or reading it was really cool, because it's like, rather than Haymitch going through like each of them and we just kind of see the people like at the reaping and him telling Katniss and Peeta about them, I think it's kind of cool to have them watch the games and like seeing these people in action, because that's very different. If I saw the people I was up against in their games and how they defeated the folks or whatever, I might not put like throw in the towel, but I just might be like, does anybody have a nut like berry I can eat? We're gonna move into the movie because I've got lots to say. Now, like I said in the beginning, Catching Fire, the movie version, is probably my favorite. I have to say that I think that they executed the film perfectly. Like, of course, the book is a great foundation, but the movie like sets it on like another level. And so like that's one of the reasons why I'm glad they didn't have the talk about like the rebellion and everything like with Katniss, but she didn't know like to what extent or like how far it really was going when it got to where it was at by the end of the movie. So I appreciated that, because it also kept us in the dark. Like, yeah, we knew, but we really didn't know. Of course, if you read the book before you watched the movie, you would know. But I like being surprised and kind of learning stuff at the same time as the characters, because it feels like you're along the journey with them. I already touched on the baby scene, but something else I really love about the film is the way they shot the film, specifically when they're in the actual games. I don't know what it is, since being at Full Sail and kind of learning more about script writing and having seen like some of the films that the students put out there and kind of wanting to get into that realm for myself, it's something about just getting a really good shot, or like having the idea of shooting a scene a certain way and then like that come into fruition. Like, I couldn't imagine being a film maker or director, the people who are mocking out these scenes, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is how it's gonna be. And of course, there's so much that goes into it. You can't just be like, this is the scene we're gonna shoot it. There's so much choreography. There's so many details that have to be like exact to really execute it the way it's supposed to be. So I have a lot of respect for the team on this movie. Even like Katniss's, when they were in the training center, when she was doing her bow and arrow, if I ever turn on the TV, and I haven't gotten to that part yet, the part where she goes in there and she shows off her skills with the bow and arrow, I will watch up until that point and I'll be like, okay, I can go do whatever else. Or if I'm right at that point, I will stop what I'm doing and watch it, because there's something about just like how there's something about how she did it without like any effort. The girl hardly even broke a sweat. And of course, this is the film where we meet heartthrob Finnick. Love Finnick with everything in me. I feel like he's like the perfect golden boy, like besides Peeta. So obviously, like in that case, there's almost kind of like a natural like rivalry between them, because in a lot of ways you could compare Finnick and Peeta together. Of course, Finnick won his games at 14, which was the youngest to ever win. And unfortunately, the Capitol was selling him for his body, and he was just involved in a lot of rah-rah within the Capitol. But he was very much loved by the Capitol, as we saw. And I definitely think if this hadn't have happened, like the games and everything, the quarter quell, Peeta probably could have gotten to that point, or would have just been like Finnick being sold to the Capitol and different people, because in a lot of ways he had the same sort of energy as Finnick. Now, I'm not sure how Peeta would have done with the whole like sex appeal, like charisma, because Finnick has that. Peeta has it, but it's more in a charming, I'm gonna save you sort of way, if that makes sense. Something I've never fully understood, as someone who, once again, has watched these movies over and over and over and have now read the books, I'm not sure if I completely understand how they were gonna get out of the games. And I believe when I was rewatching Mockingjay Part 1 the other day, of course, like the little claw that came down and got Katniss, that was District 13. But I'm like, okay, so they were gonna break the arena. Great, cool. How were they all going to, like, were they all supposed to like get on the claw, or was there supposed to be like a rope? Like, I'm confused, because then it's like, how did the Capitol, like the Peacekeepers, get like Joanna and Peter? Like, where were they so far off to where like District 13, like the people, they couldn't get to them first? Those are all details that like I probably won't ever get, or they maybe are out there and I just don't know about them. But it's those little things where I'm just like, so how did you guys really put together that this was going to happen? And also, I really enjoy that we could see that Katniss's influence was not only throughout the districts, of course, but it was in the Capitol as well. In the book, Effie kind of tells her that a lot of women in the Capitol are going to Cinna for like his designs, really just trying to like be like her and like whatever her aesthetic, like getting designs from Cinna to basically like embody Katniss. I was gonna say their inner Katniss, but I mean, I don't really think women in the Capitol have an inner Katniss. But in the movie, it's Snow and his granddaughter, they're eating breakfast, and he asked her like, oh, like, I like your hair, like, when did you start wearing like that? And she's like, everyone at school wears it like this now, because that's how Katniss wears her braid. That's how she wore it the first movie, her first games. And so like he sees that her influence is not only in the district, it's also in the Capitol. Like the love that people have for her stretches way beyond what he thought he could control. Because we all know that Snow is a bitter, sad, old, crusty, dusty, musty loser who got his little heart broken and couldn't keep his songbird, and now he got to take it out on everybody. All that being said, now comes the deciding moment of which did it better, the book or the movie. And if I have to be completely honest, when it comes to Catching Fire, the movie definitely does it better. And y'all probably already knew I was gonna say that because I have been expressing my love for the movie this whole video. But there's just something about when I watch it, I always feel so involved. I'm always just like, this is the TV and I'm like this. Like, I can't take my eyes away off of it. There's a natural draw that I have every time that I'm watching it, and I never get sick of it. It shares the story of the book on a different level that the book doesn't do it. And it might be because it's a visual aspect of the book, but I feel like with the movie, it's also just like the actors and like the extra pieces that the film production team did. Like, I can't get over how they took these little pages and turned it into that movie. The movie just sets it like on another level while the book is still good. If I have the god honest choice, once again, I'm always going to choose the movie. Just like that, we're at the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have had a lot of new life changes recently, so I'm really hoping to get these videos out to you sooner. So make sure you're turning on the post notifications so you know exactly when I upload. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and share with all your friends. I'm Kayla Sierra, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!